Welcome back. This is part 1, video 4 of my Starlight guide. In this video we're going to be talking about board selection. Unlike some of the other spirits that I've talked about in my previous videos, Starlight doesn't really care about what board it starts on. And yes, I have S, A, and B, but really this should be just like S, and this should be like A+, and then also A+. Really, Starlight can start on any board, and it really doesn't matter. Essentially what differentiates these tiers compared to the other videos is just these boards are primarily not S, C and E are your best boards for Dahan placement. And that's because if you look up here on board C, you have this triangle here of Dahan, very easy to group them up, as well as your 2 Dahan on your C3. Looking at my E, on board E, you have your 2 Dahan here, 2 Dahan here, and then 2 Dahan here. As well as board E, it's very easy to knock out this E7, which can create this inner pocket if you're playing solo. So, as you guys have seen in my Starlight videos, I primarily focus on a defensive strategy of using my defend 5 to counterattack with the Dahan. So, having Dahan that are easily able to be grouped up means it's easier for us to have favorable counterattacks. So, that's why I have them as S. And A tier, I have board D and board G. Just like boards C and E, these boards are very, very similar. Once again, all of the Dahan are all nicely placed. Very easy to group them up. The only reason why I have them a tier lower is because board D has what we call the board D special, and that's just your wetlands comes up twice on the coastline. So a lot of times that can overlap with the coast card, and that can cause a lot of problems if you end up hitting wetlands and coast simultaneously. Well, I guess back-to-back turns. One of the negatives to board G, and it's the problem that board H has as well, is that there's just so many inland lands that are adjacent to your land too. It's very hard to create that pocket that you want for these inland lands. So really on board G, you only can create a pocket by getting rid of your G8, and then you would only have G8 and G7 to kind of keep clear. So that's why I rate this board lower, despite it having pretty good Dahan placement. And looking at the boards in my B tier, we have board F, H, B, and A. And once again, just like I talked about in my stone videos, these boards have unfavorable Dahan placement. So if you're looking at board F, that lone Dahan on F3, you can't really group him up. He's just lonely. So having favorable counterattacks is not possible here. Once again, board H, lone Dahan on H3. Board B, you have a lone Dahan on B1. And board A, you have that lone Dahan on A6. So there's just that one lone Dahan that you can't really group up. You make yourself vulnerable to cultural asym, and getting a favorable counterattack is a lot more challenging. In addition, there's also some other problems. For instance, board F, you'll start with 2 beasts in your F7 if you're playing against Russia, which makes this a very bad Russia board. Board H, board H, just like board G, you have a ton of lands adjacent to the coast, so it's very hard to create those pockets. Board B, similar, the France matchup is really rough on this board because you have a town here. Oops, let's put that here. So you have a town here as well as your town on B6, so if wetlands comes up, you'll be facing down a triangle trade as well as another city. And then against Sweden, you end up having a city-town that both line up on the jungle, such that if you're playing, if your jungle comes up early, you're facing down 2 city lands. So board B, there's a lot of problem lands against specific matchups that can happen. Board A is probably the nicest out of the 4 down here in B tier, because there really isn't that bad. Sweden, your city's here, and your town is here in France. Your beasts are separated. I believe your beasts are in land A1 and I think it's A8, I believe. Can't remember where the second beast is. Oh no, it's A7, I believe. I'll have to double check. I think it's A7 now that I think about it. But one of the good things about board A is you have these Dahan that you can easily link up on the coast, such that you can take out that A2 land. So that concludes this video. Once again, this video is a little bit shorter. Starlight doesn't care about what board it goes on, and that's one of the best things about the Spirit. You can play any board and you'll have a very, very good result. So in the final video, we'll be covering Starlight's combos. See you then.